I shed no tears for the fall of the Assad regime, but today we have an Islamist extremist who is now in charge of Syria, as I said, who danced on the streets to celebrate the 9/11 attack, who ruled over Idlib with an Islamist extremist governance, and who has already begun to persecute and kill and arrest religious minorities like Christians in Syria.
I understand.
Why that should be acceptable to anyone is beyond me.
It shouldn't
is
be.
certainly
And
not in our interests.
Cuts her off. Senator, cut her off right there. The confirmation hearing to try to understand what's happening, to try to understand what the process is, and she gets cut off telling them. They don't want to hear it. These old timers do not want to hear. And when I say old timer, I mean with this old way of thinking. I mean age, all right? They have this old way of thinking that the United States could just do whatever it wants around the world and not face any repercussions. That we can just knock off a government in Syria, that we can knock off a government in Libya, that we can knock off a government in Iraq, that we can knock off a government in Ukraine, like in 2014, and bear no repercussions. Well, repercussions have been born, and they've been born from the very start of all of them. Remember, we were told the Arab Spring was just a peaceful cavalcade of a couple of buddies getting together with their friends and throwing off tyranny. You remember who was behind all of that? Oh, that's right. It was the Muslim Brotherhood. That's right. The Muslim Brotherhood throughout Egypt, throughout Tunisia, throughout Algeria, throughout Libya. That's how we got Benghazi, right? We're going all the way back to 2012. And who was behind all that stuff? By the way, it wasn't just Democrats. I noticed I mentioned Democrats before. I said Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, Victoria Nuland. But, it wasn't just them. John McCain, Lindsey Graham, arm the terrorists, arm the rebels. They're moderate rebels, don't worry. And they would go in and they would change the names of the rebel groups. Why? Because some of their other names, like the PKK, had actually been on the list of the terrorist-sponsored organizations, terrorist-designated organizations. So FTOs. So if you're on the FTO, Foreign Terrorist Organization list, you can't receive U.S. funding. Well, what do? You take the people, you change the name. Now we're going to call them the Syrian Defense Units and the Syrian Defense Force and the SDF and the SDY and all these different things. It's a joke. It's a scam. YPG, YPJ, whatever. It's been a scam from the very start. Look, go ahead and look this up. It's amazing. By the way, Hollywood will never make a movie about this. Netflix isn't going to make movies about it. Jack Ryan, isn't going to go fight these guys. And Jack Carr and Reacher, was that Lee Child? Reacher's never going to fight these guys. And all your favorite spy novels, they're never going to tell you the truth. That for a decade plus, your government, through the auspices of your Central Intelligence Agency, spent $1 billion funding a civil war, money that went directly into the hands of terrorists. Weapons that went directly into the hands of terrorists, anti-tank missiles that were purchased in the Balkans, purchased in traveling through Jordan, traveling through places like Benghazi, Stingers, Javelins, all the rest of it, traveling up to do what? To launch a civil war. And the Arab states were in on this. Lots of governments in the Middle East were in on this. They all knew about it. $1 billion. It's the same thing. It's the same thing the United States did in Afghanistan, right? So when the Soviet Union was invading Afghanistan, started in 1979, went through the 80s, you had Charlie Wilson's War. So they said, let's do another Charlie Wilson's War, and we'll fund these radical extremists. And that's what we did in Charlie Wilson's War. We funded the radical extremists, and they fought the Soviet Union for us. And then we said, oh, this will be a great idea. So we'll just fund those extremists. They'll fight the Soviets for us. We won't have to worry about it. And it'll be so much cheaper than sending U.S. troops. And it'll be a proxy war, not a direct war. And wow, look at that. The Soviet Union pulled out. They way overspent themselves. They overextended themselves. And that led and played a major part in the fall of the Soviet Union. But then what happened? Oh, then you had groups like the Taliban and Al-Qaeda who grew out of that. They say, oh, we're not going to have to worry about them, dedicated to brave Mujahideen fighters, right? Right? And Rambo 3's over there hanging out with them, saying, oh, these are the real freedom fighters. Yeah, Hollywood's all happy to make that movie. Charlie Wilson's War is all happy to make that movie. But you're not going to make the movie that talks about the fact that those same Islamist fighters then became the ones who perpetrated 9/11, along with elements of the former Saudi Arabian government. All right? Put that in your craw and chew it.